To be honest, the little scandal in which the Countess of Wessex was involved was not that bad, especially considering what the Queen's other children and daughters-in-law had been up to. At first, both Sophie and her husband intended to continue their professional careers. But just 2 years after the wedding, a tabloid reporter showed up at her door posing as an Arab sheikh supposedly interested in working with the Countess's PR firm. Sheikh secretly recorded the conversation, during which Sophie allowed herself a few careless statements. In particular, she called the wife of the then Prime Minister Tony Blair a terrible, terrible, terrible woman. The PR company had to be parted with and her focus turned entirely to royal duties. When the Countess of Wessex flew out of the UK on an official visit to the Middle East at the weekend, she was confident that her next meeting with the Sheikh would not be as disastrous as the last. For despite the best efforts of Buckingham Palace, Prince Edward's wife found herself embroiled in controversy over confusing remarks about other members of the royal family and politicians. It was alleged that the Countess called the Prime Minister too presidential and Cherie Blair horrible, absolutely horrible, 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 horrible. William Hague is said to have been deformed. She is said to have called the Queen an old quagmire and claimed Prince Charles and Camilla Parker Bowles would marry after the old lady, the Queen Mother, died. Buckingham Palace warned of massive inaccuracies in the story. We suggest that no serious journalist should give this story the attention it deserves, the statement said, more hopefully than expectantly. Her Majesty's statement. The Queen discussed the issues surrounding media coverage this week with the Earl and Countess of Wessex. Her Majesty recognizes that, despite the difficulties of recent days, both the Earl and Countess understandably want to try to continue their careers and they have her full support in doing so. It is not an easy option and they are breaking new ground, but in this day and age they should be allowed to do so. In their subsequent careers, they are always open to accusations of using their royal status to benefit their own business. Both the Earl and Countess categorically deny that they deliberately intended to do so. The Queen deplores the provocations, subterfuges, insinuations and lies to which they have been subjected in recent days. The Queen recognizes that there are, and always have been, real challenges in ensuring that royal and business interests do not conflict when members of the royal family are engaged in their own careers. Ways of resolving and preventing such potential conflicts of interest need to be identified, and this will be done in the coming weeks. While this is being done, the Countess of Wessex has suggested, and the Queen has agreed, that she should step down as chairman of RJH as the issues facing the company are considered. In addition to the Queen's statement, the Countess has released her own personal statement. The Countess of Wessex's statement. This has been a difficult time for me. I take the issues raised very seriously and naturally regret any embarrassment first and foremost to the Queen. I am grateful for Her Majesty's support both on a personal level and for the opportunity to further my career. I believe it is my highest duty to support the Queen and the monarchy. I am fully aware that I am in a privileged position and realize that my conduct must be beyond reproach. I am deeply saddened by the operation to provoke me in my business, but I am also very sorry that I succumbed to this ruse. I have discussed the situation with the Queen and have decided to step down as chairman of RJH while the issues raised by recent events are carefully considered. Given this experience, I need time to rethink my role. Over the past few days I have been greatly comforted by the friendship and support of my colleagues at RJH and our clients. I feel indebted to them and believe that a way can be found for RJH to continue to be a successful company. Over the next few weeks the business will be restructured. Even before the story was published, Rebecca Brooks, a journalist for News of the World, informed the palace that a fake employee had managed to get dirt on Sophie. Those offered an exclusive interview with Sophie if Rebecca could minimize the damage. Unfortunately, Sophie went ahead and wrote to Blair and the Tory leader apologizing for what she had said the day before the article came out, which many saw as confirmation of her words. The embarrassment was compounded by the fact that she was speaking as a director of her private public relations company RJH, which she set up in 1997, 2 years before she married the prince. More caution could have been expected from the Countess, as an experienced PR person. Officials and other public relations professionals described her as naive, and it was clear that she had fallen for the oldest trick in the book, the tabloid press trap. What made the story even stranger, however, was that the article did not appear in the publication that received the original story. News of the World published a pacifying, authorized interview with the Countess, but the explosive material mined by its undercover reporter, Major Mahmoud, spread to its main competitors, the Mail on Sunday and the Sunday Mirror. The Mail suggested that the Queen was outraged by the alleged remarks and that Prince Edward was absolutely furious at his wife's remarks. The story appeared under the banner headline, Queen's Outrage at Sophie's Insults. A similar story appeared in the Mirror. News of the World, apparently rewarded for its discretion, had to make do with the Countess's formal interview at Buckingham Palace last week, in which she was obliged to answer questions about her husband's sexual orientation and her difficulties in conceiving. Palace officials thought the personal topics of conversation would do the trick. But they didn't consider the wrath of PR man Max Clifford. Because it was Clifford who first ran the story after an RJH employee approached him with concerns about the way Sophie Wessex was conducting her business. Clifford was furious that now had been forced to cover up the story. Although the Countess had obtained an injunction preventing her employee from discussing her business, he is believed to believe that the newspaper was not legally prevented from publishing any comments made by the Countess, which Mahmoud had taped. However, it is believed that now editor Rebecca Wade decided not to publish the original story on the advice of the lawyer. Determined to see the story in print, Clifford told the Mail and the Mirror. Yesterday it was revealed that Mahmoud, who appears to have a whole closet of Arabian clothes, met the Countess 3 times over champagne at the Dorchester Hotel. She attended the meetings with her business partner Murray Harkin, but her police bodyguard remained outside the room. RJH has a number of major clients including the Lanesborough Hotel, JCB and the British Council, and last year had a turnover of more than £660,000. As chairman, the Countess's stake in the company was valued by the Mail on Sunday at £900,000 and she reportedly received a salary of £47,763 last year with an additional bonus of £18,000. It is likely that a Middle Eastern businessman wanted to hire her firm, and although Sophie Wessex has publicly insisted that she is sensitive about her relationship with the royal family, the fact of her position as the wife of the Queen's youngest son would have been appealing. It was only when the Now contacted the palace and gave details of what the Countess was alleged to have said that the horror of the situation reached them. The Countess notified the Press Complaints Commission and her lawyers secured an injunction for her employee at RJH. Press executives at the palace, who had recently made something of a practice of appeasing potential tabloid tormentors, offered Now an exclusive interview. But the strategy proved a failure. The Countess was humiliated twice in the Sunday papers. In an attempt to regain the advantage, the palace issued a strong statement insisting that none of the quotes attributed to the Countess by the Mail on Sunday newspaper were true. The story is riddled with inaccuracies and fabrications. The claim that the Countess deeply upset the Queen is untrue, and to publish a speculative story under such a headline is particularly offensive. The suggestion that she was in any way disrespectful to the Queen or the Queen Mother is not true. The allegation that the Countess told a fake Sheikh that Prince Charles and Camilla Parker Bowles would marry is untrue. The suggestion that her marriage is threatened or that Prince Edward is furious with her is not true. The remarks attributed to the Countess about political figures are selective, distorted, and in some cases completely untrue. None of the quotes in the Mail on Sunday are accurate. The palace refused to say which parts of her remarks may have been correct, even though it later regretted it. Yesterday it said the royal family fully supported her. A member of the royal family trying to advance their own career is obviously vulnerable to such setups, and all members of the royal family are at risk of gossip, misinformation, and occasional massive inaccuracies. Meanwhile, palace insiders said there was no public interest defense in persuading the Countess to reveal her views on prominent figures. It's not like The Guardian exposing the activities of Neil Hamilton or Jonathan Aitken, one said. The couple, who live at Bagshot Park in Surrey, receive no money from the civic sheet, but the Queen Mother gives the Prince at least £140,000 a year in allowances. Stenograph of the article on the News of the World. The Countess of Wessex has flagrantly broken an agreement that members of the royal family should never comment on politics. Her indiscretion over the so-called Sophie's notes raises troubling questions, given her sensitive constitutional position and access to confidential information about her role as a director of a PR firm. Her business partner at RJH, Murray Harkin, also appeared less than restrained in his boasts about royal influence, the Earl of Wessex's sexuality and drug use. In News of the World transcripts, the Countess seems to exhibit strong Tory sympathies, calling it a disgrace if William Hague loses the election. She dismisses Gordon Brown's budget as papal, criticizes Labour's attempts to ban fox hunting and accuses former Prime Minister John Major of leaking damaging royal information to distract from his political problems. The Countess and Harkin's thoughts were secretly recorded over lunch at London's Dorchester Hotel on March 14. Also present were RJH account director Brett Perkins and two secret fake sheikhs, Mazhar Mahmood of the News of the World and photojournalist Conrad Brown. Asked about the hunt, the Countess accuses Blair of not understanding rural issues. Sophie, he knows nothing about the countryside. His wife is even worse, she hates the countryside. She hates it. And because the popular vote is in the city, he's going to stick to that all the time. I mean, they were forced to pay attention to the countryside because of the FMD situation. Mahmood, Sherry, seems reserved. Sophie, she's a smart woman, and I think she wanted to keep her hand. Or maybe she didn't think her husband's government would last long, so she had to go back to work anyway. The reporter then asks who will lose in the upcoming general election. Harkin, the Tories. Sophie, I think the majority is too big. Workers will lose a lot of seats. Harkin, Portillo's seems nice. It has a bit of dapper, a bit of style, which Hague doesn't seem to have. Sophie, it's a real shame because William is very smart. I think he has a real vision. But he has such a terrible way of talking, that's how he imitates Hague all the time. Unfortunately, he's like a puppet. When we met John Major, he had a real problem. He took a defensive stance, especially during questions to the Prime Minister. In addition, in front of the TV camera he looked completely wooden. I have to say I blame him, Major and many others, for a lot of things, and he used the royal family horribly to cover up what they were doing. The leaks from Downing Street were frightening. The Countess then praises Hague's actions in fighting the nothing budget in the House of Commons. Sophie, the budget, is for the election, that's all. It's nonsense. What they failed to say is that the figure for tax increases for everyone has been scaremongering since the Labour Party came to power. The average person is paying something like an extra 40% tax. Asked if Hague could be elected, the Countess says the public don't seem to like him, but goes on to accuse Tony Blair of giving a fake impromptu speech after Diana's death. Sophie, I know it wasn't that bad because I know who wrote it. We still call him President Blair because that's what he thinks. When Mahmood suggests that Blair is Clinton without Monica, Sophie jokes, well, we don't know that. At a previous meeting, which the Countess did not attend, Harkin was drawn into a discussion about Sophie's ability to separate her business and royal interests. Admitting that it does cause conflicts, she says clients are advised to treat her company like any other PR firm, but immediately emphasizes the appeal of hiring a princess. In your country, for example, when people discover that you have the Countess of Wessex's firm working for you, it will play a special role. Harkin said the Countess could go to Dubai and there is potential for Edward as well, adding that they have already been to Dubai. He and Harkin then discuss how the name Countess of Wessex helps in working with clients and in fulfilling contracts. Harkin said that there are situations when clients insist on Sophie's participation in their promotion, Sophie's photo on a brochure or on a promotional poster. But if the event is held in Dubai, where Sophie is present as a director of the company, photographers still shoot her as Countess of Wessex and it becomes known in the press. It's not as much of a problem as the face and the materials thing, but you still have to be careful. The fact that she's going to be involved is going to make the project more visible in the media anyway, says Harkin. Harkin is even in favor of using royal photos for other reasons. You can buy photos of her meeting the Queen or meeting different people anyway, and you can do whatever you want with them. So in that sense you get support from that. He boasts that the Countess has been able to attract celebrities such as Sean Connery or even Julia Roberts, describing the charity events she has held with celebrities that have been sold to Hello Magazine. Harkin, now she could do something in Dubai where she could take Sean Connery and some of those people with her, just to experience it and see it and be seen there, and it could be the same week as your launch party. What you could do is find some key people like Julia Roberts and say, Sophie invites you to come to Dubai. If a princess from England invites you, I mean, you know what Americans are like. They love it. It is at the third meeting with Harkin and the Countess that reporters pick up the royal gossip. Sophie says the public wanted to make her the new Diana. Sophie, and I don't think I could have handled that kind of pressure or expectation. Everyone was saying, oh my God, doesn't she look like Diana? Then they thought, it's not going to be very good because she's not going to show up in different outfits every day, opening children's hospitals, you know. I do some of that, but not as much as they would like. When asked if the Prince of Wales is too formal, Sophie replies that he's always been like that, he likes formality in his life, but goes on to defend him as a fun and relaxed father. Sophie, he's a man who was always ahead of his years. He was damned as a complete charlatan. People used to laugh at his views on architecture, but now they're starting to pay attention to him. Even in the delicate matter of Charles and Camilla, she is still open. Sophie, it's a very complicated situation. On the one hand, there's no reason why she shouldn't be accepted because he's divorced and she's divorced, but on the other hand, you have issues with a monarch who is the head of the church. I think it's complicated, especially while Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, is still alive.